You may be feeling a little out of sorts as we approach the crescendo of this Scorpio lunar eclipse. Some of you may be weepy, some of you may be triggered, and some of you just might be in the mood as Scorpio tends to be highly seductive energy. What's up, friends? It's Lisa Roulette, founder of the Healers Podcast, the Make More Money system for healers, coaches, and counselors, and your ascension guide. If you're new here, this channel is all about spiritual awakening, ascension, and now we've recently added spiritual business. Veteran subscribers, thank you for your patience as we add the spiritual business component to the channel. And if you're new, consider subscribing because we have a lot of information, a lot of fun stuff, especially about these ever-changing times that we're going through collectively together as humanity. In this video, we're going to talk about the Scorpio lunar eclipse, which is so transformative. So if you don't already know, eclipses are very big astrological events. They're rare and they have very long-term lasting effects. So it's in our best interest to tap into the energies of them. Remember, astrology is a language and is essentially the cosmos instructing us on our evolutionary path. The lunar eclipse is very emotional. On top of it being a Scorpio lunar eclipse, it can be highly emotional. So if you are feeling that those triggers, or you're a little weepy, it's totally understandable. Don't beat yourself up. It's normal and it's really good. We're going to talk about how you can work with those energies. But in the meantime, it is in our best interest to truly understand this. For eclipses, it's not so much about predicting things. I know a lot of astrologers out there are into predicting what's going to happen for your sign. For eclipses, I really believe more in understanding the energy so that you can intentionally work with it. Now, if you are into the astrology part of it, you can look where 14 degrees Scorpio is in your natal birth chart. Whichever house that's in, that's where it's going to have the biggest impact. But for the sake of working with this energy, we're going to talk about how the energy is going to affect the collective consciousness and then how you can work with it on an individual level. So let's talk about the collective consciousness. How is this going to affect the collective consciousness? Well, Scorpio is survivor energy. Its ruling planets are Mars and Pluto. And as Mars and Pluto create the overtone of the movement of energy, we realize that we are collectively going through a massive transformation. You cannot be denied. I mean, we all know it, right? We can't, nothing is the same, right? Nothing is the same. I mean, I'm a 70s, 80s, 90s child. And I'll tell you what, life is so different now. It's crazy. And the reason that is because the cosmos, the ascension, is telling us that what we have created on Earth as part of the three-dimensional paradigm just doesn't work. It doesn't work. We are not meant to be so divided, and we are not meant to be so hierarchical. We are remembering that we are one. So as we turn our awareness back to the one, those systems and structures that uphold the third dimensional paradigm are coming down. And I know you know this, especially if you've watched this channel, because I talk about it a lot. And the reason I talk about it a lot is because we have to face it. If we don't face it, when we ignore it, what's going to happen is we will store a lot of density in our light body and we will prevent our ascension. And we're going to talk about density in the light body when we talk about how to work with this energy on the individual level. But from a collective standpoint, what's happening is it is excavating the collective shadow. That's what Scorpio does. It takes energy and it pulls up, it gets into the shadow and it reveals things. And it's deep information. So we're going to continue to see a lot of things that are not so pretty in the collective. Now, in a perfect world, we would all kumbaya around a big circle and agree, hey, this stuff isn't working. Our political systems aren't working. Our economic systems aren't working. Our school systems, our education systems are not, they're broken, right? They're not in great shape. And there are so many things that aren't working. But A, we don't live in a perfect world. And B, here's why that's not going to happen. Even if we all sat around and said, all right, let's redesign all of these systems to support a new Earth and to really facilitate fifth dimensional consciousness, the taking down of the third dimensional systems impact everyone. In large part, my community, or the community that I am part of, thinks that the patriarchy is the devil, and that it's because of them that we're suffering on such a big level, and we should just eliminate the patriarchy and everything would be better. But the truth is, if we were to just rip down the systems, you would be adversely affected too. You can't just take out the patriarchy, because we are so integral as part of the third dimensional paradigm. So here's an example. Let's say we decide pharmaceutical industry clearly doesn't work. It's a system driven by profit, not wellness. Okay, we all know that, and it doesn't take a genius to realize that that is a really, really broken system. So the first idea would be take them out, make it illegal to profit from pharmaceuticals, right, or any kind of prescription medication or drug, right? Well, the problem with that is, yes, okay, the major shareholders, the stakeholders, the people that are up here would absolutely suffer from that, right? And so some people might say, good, it's their time. But here's the thing. The guy down the street whose IRA is full of pharmaceuticals, right? He's going to suffer too, okay? So you can't take down a paradigm without everything that is part of the paradigm suffering. So that means you and me and all of the patriarchy and all of the hierarchy. So we have to be very careful and mindful and ask ourselves, how are we going to facilitate this together? It does us no good to beat up a patriarchy and to beat up old ideas. It serves us much more to observe the collective shadow and say, what's my part in it? And how can I participate in healing that collective shadow? Because it's inevitable. This is what the cosmos is designed to do. This is why we chose to incarnate at the end of an ascension cycle, because we have the power via our consciousness to start to recreate the systems, but really from a deep place of love and responsibility for the overall evolution of humanity. So if you think to yourself, your future generations, because you will become an ancestor one day, right? So you want to start to be influencing the field in a way that will positively impact the new earth and a fifth dimensional paradigm, right? Because that's where we're going to. We're going to the fifth dimension, but it's going to take the collective to do that. And this period of time, the cosmos is saying, you've got Scorpio, rulers Pluto and Mars. It's going to be really dark and uncomfortable. So I'm not trying to discourage you or make you feel scared in any way. It just is what it is. And the more we can recognize the collective shadow, the more we can participate and take our own responsibility for our own energy, keeping in mind that your energy is integral to the overall interwoven, intricate nature of the fabric of our shared reality. You're a very important piece of this picture, so don't ever forget that. I think people think too small about themselves, and this is what this energy is telling us, think much bigger. Okay, this is death and rebirth for all. Okay, that's what Pluto essentially signifies, death and rebirth. But Mars comes in as the warrior to slash and burn. Okay, so it is a little aggressive. There's going to be some aggressive changes, but remember, all change begins from within. So how do you start to work with this scorpionic energy? Well, the first thing is that many people think, set your intentions. I wouldn't really do that under eclipse energy. Eclipse energy is really powerful and it's long lasting. And it's really not about, I think it's more about setting the intention to set the intention. For me, this is largely about observation, right? So you want to be looking into things like the sacral chakra, because Scorpio is typically identified with the sacral chakra because it is a water sign and the sacral chakra is all about water, right? So we're thinking about what is flowing from us energetically, but also what's not flowing from us. So really taking that witness observer position and understanding what emotions are truly pent up in the emotional body. Because remember, the emotional body is the bridge between the mental and the physical body. It is essentially the vibratory field that the physical and mental body create. If you take the physical body frequency and you take the mental body frequency, essentially they end up creating the emotional body. At least that's how I see it and feel it. And the emotional body really has to have a tremendous amount of light, not density, in order to be connected to the spiritual body. If the emotional body has an increasing amount of light, you are more and more likely to become aware of the spiritual body, which is your connection to the universe or God or what you call source, right? So you want to be mindful of what emotions are there. And that's why I say sort of pause. Like, don't go out on big manifesting rituals and journeys of that nature. You just really want to pause. If you think about an eclipse, it's like it goes dark. So think about when the lights go out in your house. I'm taking this from Chani Nicholas because she did this in one of her videos. She said, think about when the lights go out in your house. It's like you stop, right? You stop and you're like, okay, what's going on? Right? You have to observe the situation because you don't really know what's going on. Well, that's really sort of what an eclipse does. It's like stop and just observe. See what's in that sacral chakra, because if you have a lot of pent up emotions from the past, if you need to forgive people, if you're not sort of moving that energy of those emotions, then you're going to have a lot of density in the light body, and the density of the light body prevents us. It's like blockages, right? It prevents us from building the light body. So there's no reason that you need to hold on to that, but also with the eclipse, you're not necessarily moving that energy out. You're just becoming aware of it. Okay. But I also think very much, even though Scorpio is associated with the sacral chakra, it's also largely associated with the root chakra because it is a survivor energy, unfortunately. And as a Scorpio rising, I can tell you, I've survived many lives in this lifetime alone, right? So it is a survivor energy. So you have to ask yourself, where am I continually surviving? Like, what is the pace where you're sort of like that heat emoji with the tongue, you know, and the sweat? Like, where in my life am I like that? Okay. And that very may well show up at that 14 degrees Scorpio point for you in your natal chart. But find out where that 14 degrees Scorpio is, because you may feel that red emoji, that survivorship, because you have the opportunity now through the ascension and through your own personal evolution and part of the collective consciousness to turn that survivability into thrivability, to really say, all right, well, if I can shed the density in the sacral chakra and I can really start to move into the root chakra, taking all of that light that I'm gaining by understanding, transmuting, alchemizing the frequency of the emotional body into higher frequency, then I can sort of cross that bridge into the root chakra and say, okay, now how can I thrive? Does that make sense? So you just want to be in a place of surrender during this energy. You want to become increasingly self-aware, because remember, all healing begins in self-awareness, but also all manifestation begins in self-awareness as well. So whether you feel that you're doing a lot of healing work, or like me, you're sort of taking that next step on your evolutionary path into your next level of consciousness, your next level of awareness, and therefore your next level of personal mastery, it doesn't really matter whether it's healing or manifesting, because as you know, they're the exact same thing. So you just want to become increasingly aware. All right. That's a wrap for this video, my friends. Make sure you visit the links in the description of the video below. And until next time, never forget that you are loved.